The frantic pounding on my door in the dead of night jolted me awake. When I opened it, my girlfriend stood there, disheveled and stricken. The moment her eyes met mine, panic gave way to tears. She said her life was over. She said she hit someone with her car. Sobbing, she begged me to help her. Seeing her so helpless, my heart twisted in pain. I hesitated for a long time. Then, finally, I took the car keys from her trembling hands. Go inside and get some sleep. Remember, you know nothing. I'm sorry, the number you dialed is no longer in service. The cold, mechanical voice repeated over and over in my ear. Memories of Anna's promises came rushing back. I'll wait for you, no matter how long it takes. When you get out, we'll get married. My heart sank. I had taken the fall for her and spent 6 years in prison. She swore she would wait, but the moment I was released, she vanished without a trace. 6 years ago, I had a bright future ahead of me. That prison sentence destroyed everything. My mother, the only family I had left, passed away before I was released, weighed down by sorrow. She died never knowing that her son wasn't the one who had taken a life. I felt like a fool. I started to question whether my sacrifice had ever meant anything at all. George, you did 6 years. It's no surprise your girl didn't wait. Stop looking like you've got nothing left to live for. Come work with me, once we've got money, women won't be a problem. The man speaking was Marcus, a fellow inmate I had met inside. I once blocked a knife for him and he never forgot it. He had always talked about getting out and making it big, promising to bring me along. But he didn't know that I was in jail for this woman. I refused his offer. There was something inside me that wouldn't let go. But reality crushed me faster than I expected. I had been a top student, but no company would hire me. I couldn't even afford a cheap motel, let alone track down Anna. And the victim's family was still searching for me, swearing they would make me pay for what I had done. In the end, I had no choice. I went to Marcus's coal mine. The moment I arrived, he made me his deputy mine director. It turned out my degree was actually useful. The mine had already been thriving, but under my management, it flourished even more. Then, one day, Marcus came looking for me. George, you lucky bastard. My sister's got plenty of suitors, but she set her sights on you. Honestly, I'd rather she be with you than some other guy. So when are you two gonna meet? Marcus was blunt. He didn't think any man could refuse his sister. And, to be fair, Selena was breathtaking. But I turned him down. Because no matter how much time had passed, I still had one unresolved obsession, Anna, the woman who disappeared. Marcus was so pissed he didn't talk to me for a whole week. Marcus always said that the man who saved his life was his brother for life. To him, I was that man. As a token of gratitude, he gave me 30% of the coal mine's shares. At that time, coal was practically a money-printing machine. In just a year, I had achieved complete financial freedom. But instead of reveling in wealth, I buried myself in work, keeping my mind too occupied to drown in sorrow. As the mine's operations stabilized, my workload lightened. I no longer needed to handle the daily grind, just key decisions. I knew I had spent the past year suppressing my emotions rather than confronting them. The weight of those 6 years only grew heavier with time. It was time to face the past. I told Marcus I was leaving and boarded a helicopter back to the city. Most of my fortune had been invested in Manhattan's real estate market. Marcus, trusting my instincts, had followed suit, pouring a significant amount of his money into the same ventures. At this point, nearly half of Manhattan's real estate industry was under our control. I reached out to my former classmates. They all knew the story, how I had driven head-on into someone, gone to prison. Some openly looked down on me, others whispered behind my back. No one was willing to give me Anna's number or tell me where she lived. Eventually, I managed to get in touch with Pete, our class president. He was hesitant but, in the end, invited me to an upcoming class reunion. Maybe you'll see her there, he said. I had no interest in seeing any of them. But for the chance to see her, I had no choice. On the day of the reunion, my helicopter landed directly on the rooftop of the hotel. Yes, the 5-star hotel they had chosen just happened to be one of my properties. The hotel manager greeted me with utmost respect, but he was sharp enough to recognize that I didn't want a follower trailing behind me. He quickly excused himself. I walked into their private lounge. Wait. George? You've changed so much. Pete barely recognized me. It made sense. After 6 years in prison, I had grown accustomed to short hair and tailored suits. Managing thousands of employees had sharpened my presence, turning it cold and commanding. But I hadn't noticed the change myself. I assumed it was just the effect of time. Pete, who is he? He is George. Oh, the one who went to prison? What's he doing here? I just saw a helicopter land on the roof of the hotel. Could it be one of our classmates? How is that possible? Stop kidding me. They arrived one after another. More than one person failed to recognize me at first. But after knowing it was me, none of them showed me the slightest respect. They whispered about me openly, unconcerned if I heard. That's George. Fresh out of prison. I almost didn't recognize him. Look at that, he actually wore a fake Rolex. I subtly pulled my sleeve down to cover the watch. Marcus had shoved it into my hands before I left, insisting I wear it. Pete, why the hell did you invite him? Come on, we're all classmates. No need to be so judgmental. Even if he hadn't gone to prison, this kind of event is way out of his league. Does he really think a suit and tie can get him a seat at the table? Becky, my former desk mate, didn't even bother to hide her disdain. She had always been a social climber, and nothing had changed. Now, she was draped in jewelry, radiating arrogance. Their sneers and cold shoulders didn't bother me. Their opinions were meaningless. I was only here for one reason. But as the table filled up, there was still no sign of her. Where's Henry? Heard he's doing pretty well for himself these days, managing projects worth hundreds of millions for some big-shot real estate firm. The name sent a ripple through my memory. Henry had once been my best friend. When I was first imprisoned, he and Anna visited me a few times. Then, suddenly, they both stopped coming. Henry, your boss's car is incredible. When are you getting one of your own? The room was loud, filled with conversation and laughter, but I still caught that voice instantly. A voice I hadn't heard in 7 years. A voice I could never forget. My heart plummeted. Following that familiar voice, Henry walked in. Before I could even process it, Anna appeared right behind him, her hand wrapped around his arm. Whatever hope remained in me shattered, my heart plunging from the abyss straight into hell. They didn't notice me, tucked away in the corner. They were too busy basking in the attention, surrounded by laughter and flattery. I trembled uncontrollably. I hadn't felt this kind of fury in years. My fingers tightened around the fork on the table. A single thought burned through my mind: I wanted to kill them. 6 years. I had rotted in a prison cell for her. And now, she was with my best friend. I never once imagined this nightmare would become my reality. My phone vibrated violently in my pocket, the persistent ringing jarring me from the brink of something irreversible. Someone beside me nudged my arm, snapping me back to reality. Selena's playful voice chimed through the receiver. George. I heard you're in Manhattan. What a coincidence, I'm here filming a movie. Let's meet up tonight, okay? Don't bother. I wasn't in the mood for small talk. I hung up immediately. But that sudden call had done its job. It grounded me, pulling me back from the edge. My grip on the fork loosened. I wouldn't let her ruin me a second time. How had I been so blind? So stupid? Letting myself be shackled by a misplaced sense of morality, throwing away 6 years of my life for a heartless woman? My gaze locked onto Anna, unflinching. Finally, she noticed me. Her eyes widened in shock, a gasp slipping from her lips. She nudged Henry beside her. Henry turned, his expression shifting in an instant. For a fleeting moment, I saw something crack beneath his facade. But he recovered quickly, schooling his features into one of arrogance, a smirk curling at the corner of his mouth. Well, look who it is. George. You're out of jail, and you didn't even call your old friend? The entire room fell silent, heads turning toward me. Some were only now realizing who I was. The whispers spread like wildfire. They all remembered, back in college, Anna had been my girlfriend. And now, they were all watching, waiting for the show. I barely spared Henry a glance. Instead, I stared straight at Anna and spoke, my voice calm and laced with ice. Do you think you deserve it? Henry's face darkened instantly. Come on now, we're all classmates, no need to dwell on past grudges, Pete interjected, trying to smooth things over. George, watch your tone. I invited you out of consideration for old time's sake. You must have had a rough time in there, right? Just enjoy the meal, this is a 5-star hotel, after all. Henry, don't stoop to his level. He's been out of touch with the real world for too long, probably still adjusting. They had no idea what had really happened. To them, I was just an ex-con, someone who had just been released and hadn't found his footing. Henry scoffed. You think I'm unworthy? What about Anna? As he spoke, he pulled her closer, his hand sliding around her waist. His gaze locked onto mine, full of provocation. Quit acting like you've been wronged. You made your own choices, now live with the consequences. Besides, even if you hadn't gone to prison, you think you would have made something of yourself? Becky, ever the opportunist, sneered. Look at Henry, he's got a car, a house, and power. How do you even compare? She turned to Henry, her voice sickeningly sweet. Oh, right. Henry, if your company has any insider investment tips, make sure to share them with my husband, okay? She batted her lashes at Henry, shamelessly throwing herself at him. I ignored them all. I only cared about one person. Anna. She had been silent, but she could feel my eyes burning into her. Finally, she spoke. George, we're in the past. No woman would wait for 6 years. And let's be honest, what kind of future does a man have after 6 years in prison? Her voice was calm, as if rehearsed. Becky's right, you made your choice, now live with it. Besides, even before all of this, my family would never have approved of you. My ears rang. For a moment, I felt nothing. Then, suddenly, I was back in that moment, 6 years ago. I saw her standing at my doorstep, drenched in tears, her body shaking. George, I can't go to prison. Please, you have to help me. I was drinking, if the police catch me, it's over. Wait. George, you weren't drinking. You can take the fall for me, right? It'll be fine. I'll wait for you, I swear. Once you're out, we'll get married. Everything had changed. The woman I had once loved more than anything. The friend I had trusted with my life. Now, they were nothing but strangers, strangers so unfamiliar, it was terrifying. And finally, I understood. I understood why she had stopped visiting. Why she had disappeared without a trace after my release. She had the audacity to claim I had no future. To stand there, shamelessly pushing her crime onto me, as if it had always been my burden to bear. Had 7 years really been long enough for her to forget that she was the one who destroyed my future? Had 7 years really erased the memory of what she had done? No. Impossible. She hadn't forgotten. She had simply convinced herself that enough time had passed, that I was powerless, that there was no evidence left to prove the truth. But she was wrong. Because she had no idea that I had locked the dashcam footage away in a safe all those years ago. I had never destroyed it. At that moment, any last trace of sorrow within me vanished, replaced by a seething, consuming rage. Then another memory struck me, my mother, sick and weak in her hospital bed. I had gone completely gray overnight, powerless in my prison cell, unable to reach her. And Henry, he had promised to help. Henry, I said coldly, my voice eerily calm. The money you owed me. Did you send it to my mother when she was in the hospital? Henry scoffed. What the hell are you talking about? Who owes you money? His face twisted into mockery. Your mother is sick, why should I give her money? After talking for so long, it turns out you are trying to extort money from me. He pulled out his wallet and flung a wad of cash onto the table, the bills scattering at my feet. Take it. Take all of it. Money's the last thing I'm worried about. A sneer curled at his lips. If you're really that desperate, why don't you beg me? Summit Realty Group is hiring security guards next week. Maybe I can pull some strings, help you get in. You'd be lucky, most people would kill for a job there. He actually thought I was penniless. That I was at his mercy. And more than that, he was refusing to acknowledge the debt. I had begged him for help back then, sent word through mutual contacts, pleading for him to send money to the hospital. Not a single cent had ever reached my mother. She had died alone, never knowing that I had tried. The pain cut through me like a blade. And then, the weight of it all settled in, the innocent life lost the night of the accident, the years stolen from me, my mother's death, the betrayal of the two people I had trusted most. I clenched my fists. I would not let them walk away unscathed. Summit Realty Group. The very company Marcus and I had invested in. I had an agent handling things on my behalf, so I never paid much attention to the lower-level personnel. And yet, Henry, the man standing before me, had been working as a project manager under my company all this time. The irony almost made me laugh. But I swallowed the impulse, forcing myself to stay calm. It was perfect. They had practically walked right into my hands. Now, all I needed to do was figure out the best way to drag them both into hell. Becky, ever the eager sycophant, was still running her mouth. "Oh, come on, guys, let's have some pity on this pathetic idiot. No job, no girlfriend, someone get him something to do before he loses his mind completely. He's already sounding like a lunatic. Hey, my family's funeral home needs someone to stoke the boiler. What do you say, George? Go home, change out of that suit, and I'll even throw in room and board for you." Laughter erupted around the room. They all saw me as nothing more than a joke. A man worth laughing at. Then, the door suddenly swung open. A hush fell over the room. Standing in the doorway, completely out of place in this den of vipers, was Selena. It turned out her film crew had been shooting nearby. "Whoa, is that the Selena? The superstar?" someone blurted out, wide-eyed. "Yeah. I heard she's a rich kid too. What's she doing here? How did she get in?" "Never mind, I just want her autograph first." "Pfft, look at you all, acting like peasants who've never seen a celebrity before. She's just an actress. What's so special? Probably just slept her way to the top like the rest of them." Even with all eyes on Selena, Becky's voice dripped with disdain. Selena walked in and flashed me a playful smile. "George, the moment I saw that helicopter, I knew you were here. Why did you hang up on me? A superstar. A private helicopter." Yet no one in the room believed she was here for me. They were still trying to make sense of it when Selena casually strolled over to Becky and stopped right in front of her. "What did you just say?" Becky scoffed. "What do you mean? You're just an actress. What's so great about that?" "No. The previous sentence." Selena was as straightforward as her brother. Just by standing there, her presence alone made Becky visibly uncomfortable. Her voice faltered. "I said, pity this pathetic loser. He doesn't even have a girlfriend." Selena didn't even let her finish before delivering a brutal slap across Becky's face. The entire room froze. "Listen carefully," Selena said coldly. "I am his girlfriend. He doesn't need anyone's pity. And no one gets to insult him. This slap is to remind you of that. Next time, I won't be so nice, I'll tear your mouth apart myself. You dare hit me?" Becky shrieked in disbelief. The room was dead silent. No one had expected Selena to step in, much less defend me. And the idea that she would claim to be my girlfriend? Unthinkable. Becky, humiliated, moved to retaliate, but Selena's bodyguards immediately blocked her. Furious and red-faced, she turned to Henry with a pleading look, as if blaming him for not stepping in. Henry's expression darkened. He hesitated for a moment before finally picking up his phone. "Manager Jack, send some men over. There's trouble at the hotel." Becky, still fuming, called her husband as well. I didn't want Selena getting involved in this mess. I stood up, reaching for her arm to pull her away. "Let's go." But Becky shrieked again. "You're not going anywhere. Don't think you can walk away just because you're a celebrity. And you," she turned her glare on me, "stay right here. See how my husband will deal with you when he comes." I leaned close to Selena, whispering something into her ear. Her face immediately turned red, a mix of frustration and something else she was trying to suppress. She huffed but didn't argue, turning on her heel and storming out. Becky reached to grab her, but I stepped in her way. "Don't worry. I'm not leaving. If you have a problem, deal with me." Anna had been silent, watching everything unfold. But now, as she stared at Selena, the stunning superstar who had just looked so soft and shy in front of me, her expression twisted. Her face was pale, her hands clenched into fists. And Henry. His jealousy was practically radiating off him. His jaw tightened, his teeth grinding together as he forced out a mocking laugh. "Oh, so that's how it is. You found a rich woman. But don't think for a second that anyone can save you today." While the room was still buzzing with heated whispers about whether Selena's words were true, the door slammed open again. Nate, Becky's husband, stormed in, bringing several men with him. "Who the hell dared to hit my wife? You must have a death wish." Becky practically stuck her nose in the air, beaming with satisfaction. She cast a smug glance at our former classmates, relishing their intimidated expressions, before finally fixing her gaze on me, as if I were nothing more than an insect beneath her feet. "George, get on your knees and apologize. Do it now, and maybe I'll let you keep one of your arms. Pete, ever the peacemaker, tried to intervene. Becky, this isn't necessary. We were all classmates. Shut the hell up. Who do you think you are? Get lost. Nate cut him off with a bark, making Pete shrink back, silenced. The private room fell into tense silence. Every pair of eyes turned to me. And yet, I simply sat there, leaning forward casually, sipping my coffee. As if the chaos unfolding around me had absolutely nothing to do with me. Nate's patience snapped. George, I said, get on your knees. Did you hear me? I finally set my coffee cup down and spoke, my voice calm. You should ask Ryan Miller if he dares to make me kneel first. Nate let out a barking laugh. You've got some nerve. You think you can say my boss's name like that? Who the hell do you think you are? I met his gaze, my tone indifferent. I'm his boss. The room fell dead silent. Then, laughter erupted. This guy's lost it. Prison must have fried his brain, he thinks he owns Summit Realty now. Nate, just knock some sense into him already. Nate's smirk disappeared. His patience had run dry. Enough of this bullshit, he growled, stepping forward and reaching out to grab me. In the room, our old classmates witnessed this scene, with expressions ranging from curiosity to pity on their faces, as if they were witnessing the self-destruction of a madman. Then, a sudden surge of movement outside. Before anyone could react, a wave of men in sharp suits flooded into the room. The hallway outside was packed, a solid wall of black suits pressing in. More and more kept arriving, quickly forming an impenetrable mass. Within seconds, Nate's men were overpowered, slammed onto the floor without resistance. A deep, furious voice rang through the chaos. Nate, you stupid bastard, stop right now. Do you have any idea what the hell you've done? You're gonna get me killed. Two men in suits shoved through the crowd, drenched in sweat. One was Jake, the hotel manager, and the other was Ryan Miller, my agent. Nate, still dazed, barely managed to stammer, "Boss, Boss? Go to hell with that, don't call me boss." Ryan kicked him straight into the wall before stomping down on his face, again and again, until Nate's mouth was covered in blood. Henry, utterly confused, scrambled to salvage the situation, assuming Ryan had made a mistake. "Boss, Jake, you've got the wrong guy. The troublemaker isn't Nate, it's that ex-con over there." He didn't even finish his sentence before Jake slapped him across the face, hard. The crack of impact echoed through the silent room. Blood and spit flew from Henry's mouth as one of his front teeth went sailing across the floor. Jake wasn't done. He landed another brutal slap, desperate to prove his loyalty before Ryan took over. "You absolute dumbass." Jake sneered. "Do you even know who the hell you've been messing with? You've really got a death wish, don't you?" The entire room was in shock. And then, the moment that completely shattered reality for them. Ryan Miller, the man they all feared, the powerful force behind Summit Realty Group, dropped to his knees before me. "George, I'm sorry. I should have been more careful. I had no idea I was keeping such worthless scum under my wing." At his words, the entire mass of men in black suits bowed their heads. The synchronized motion, the sheer number of them, it was terrifying to watch. "George, we failed you. We should have arrived sooner." The deep, unified voices echoed through the hotel like a rolling thunder. The room fell into an unnatural silence. All of my former classmates stared at me in horror. Henry clutched his swollen face, his voice trembling in disbelief. "No, no way. Jake, why the hell did you hit me? Boss, why are you kneeling to him? Who the hell is he?" Anna stood frozen, her face shifting from shock to something deeper, something almost unreadable. "Becky?" She looked like she had been struck by lightning, too terrified to even speak. I exhaled slowly, then leaned back, locking eyes with Henry. "Who do you think I am?" I asked, my voice quiet but sharp. Henry's breathing turned erratic. "No, it can't be, are you?" I smirked. "Are you the boss behind the Peak Real Estate Group?" I stood up, smoothing my sleeve. "What do you think, and don't forget to set me up with that security guard job you promised." My cold laughter cut through the silence, the weight of reality finally crashing down on them all. "No way. You were in prison for 6 years. How the hell did you end up as my boss?" Henry's voice cracked with disbelief. He shook his head wildly, as if rejecting reality itself. "No, this can't be happening. I still have my mortgage, my car loan, I can't lose everything. His panic escalated as he looked to Ryan Miller, searching for any sign of mercy. But Ryan's cold, indifferent stare made it clear, there would be none. Henry finally snapped. The truth sank in. His entire world had collapsed within minutes. The confidence he had built over 20 years shattered into dust. His breath came in short gasps, his eyes darting around desperately before latching onto Anna. In sheer desperation, he shoved her toward me. Anna. You're his girlfriend, beg him. Hurry up. If you don't, we'll lose everything. Anna spun around, furious. Her face twisted in anger as she lifted her hand and slapped him across the face. Henry, you gutless coward. You can't handle your own mess, so now you want me to clean it up for you? Henry, already on the brink of collapse, snapped back. He lunged at Anna, and the two of them, once partners in betrayal, turned on each other like rabid animals. They clawed, shoved, screamed at each other, their relationship disintegrating into chaos before everyone's eyes. No one stepped in. No one stopped them. I sat there, emotionless, observing the disaster unfold, watching as their desperation devoured them. After letting them tear into each other for a while, I gave a small gesture. My men pulled them apart. Henry, his face scratched and bloodied, looked around, seeing only cold, indifferent stares from the people who once flattered him. Realizing that he was utterly alone, he collapsed onto the floor, defeated. His voice broke as he begged. I was wrong, George. Please. I'll give Anna back to you, I don't want her anymore. I never should have gotten involved with her. Just let me go, please. Anna, her face swollen and bruised, stepped toward me next. Her expression softened, her eyes glistening with pitiful innocence. George. I was tricked. You still love me, don't you? We can go back to how things were, right? I tilted my head, gazing at her for a moment. Then, I smiled. Sure. We can go back. I agreed without hesitation. Her eyes lit up. Really? I knew it, George. I knew you still loved me. She reached out to grab my hand. I resisted the urge to recoil, to tear my hand away in disgust. But I didn't. Because I wasn't finished yet. Because I wasn't letting her go that easily. I was going to give her hope. Then, I was going to rip it away. I was going to make her wish she had never been born. I gazed at Anna with deep affection, my voice tender and full of longing. Yes. In those 6 years in prison, there wasn't a single day I didn't think about you. But when I got out, you were gone. Do you know how much that hurt me? Don't leave me again, okay? Anna looked at me, utterly convinced that she had me wrapped around her finger. Her eyes sparkled with excitement, as if she had just climbed out of hell and into paradise. It was my fault, George. I'll never leave you again. But from now on, you have to treat me well too. No one could understand how I could forgive her so easily. But the Pete, seeing the tension dissolve, immediately jumped in to smooth things over. George, we were blind before. But we're all classmates, there's still friendship between us, right? The others caught on quickly and rushed to apologize. Yeah, George, we didn't mean anything by it. I looked at their faces, so quick to change, so eager to grovel, and internally scoffed. But on the surface, I played the role of the generous man. Yes, we are classmates, and I am not the kind of person who cares about every little thing. You didn't eat well just now. Since you are eating in my hotel today, you have to eat well. Come, bring me another table of dishes. I want the best dishes in the hotel. I ordered every dish on the table to be cleared away and instructed the kitchen to serve the very best. Anna, practically glowing with excitement, excused herself to the restroom to freshen up her makeup, convinced that she was about to soar to the top. When she returned, I wrapped an arm around her shoulder, settling us back into our seats. And in front of everyone, I began planning our future together. Anna, I remember you once said you liked Ryan Miller's car. Here, Ryan, give it to her. Anna gasped, pretending to be shy. Thank you, George. Her face radiated happiness, completely forgetting how just half an hour ago, she had been calling someone else husband. I smiled. Anna, I have a beachfront villa. You'll move in tomorrow. Anna, I'll get you a credit card. You don't have to work anymore, just enjoy life. She beamed with delight, fully sinking into the illusion of a fairy tale ending. Henry, sitting nearby, laughed nervously, not daring to look me in the eye, clinging to the hope that I had forgiven him too. The female classmates? Their jealousy was palpable. As my attitude softened, the atmosphere at the table completely shifted. The night was filled with chatter, laughter, and eager flattery, everyone falling over themselves to please me. Nate, sitting awkwardly in the corner, glared resentfully, trying to find a chance to apologize, but he couldn't even get a word in. Ryan Miller and Jake, following my silent command, dismissed the security team, everything appearing to settle down. I leaned in, whispering something to Ryan. He nodded and slipped out of the room, pulling out his phone. Everyone thought the storm had passed. That things were back to normal. But they had no idea. The real show was only just beginning. The victim's family arrived. The moment they saw me, their eyes burned red with fury. They lunged forward, trying to break through the door, but the security guards held them back. Anna, sitting beside me, jumped in fright, instinctively shrinking back. "Where the hell have you been this past year? I told you, when you got out, I'd kill you myself." The man struggled, vehement and desperate, his voice shaking with rage. And then, the massive screen on the wall flickered to life. A hush fell over the room. The screen displayed a video. A dashcam recording. In the footage, a car sped down the road, weaving dangerously. The swaying grew more erratic, the vehicle veering uncontrollably. Then, it swerved sharply onto the sidewalk. A single, blood-curdling scream erupted from inside the car. And then, impact. The vehicle slammed into a pedestrian, the force sending her body flying. The sidewalk was instantly painted red. A woman stumbled out of the driver's seat. She took one look at the lifeless, crumpled body and froze, her entire frame trembling violently. Then, she screamed again, turning back to the car, fumbling with the keys. In her panic, she jumped back into the driver's seat and sped away from the scene. Every single person in the room saw her face. It was Anna. A gasp rippled through the crowd. The screen flickered again. The footage changed, now, it was my apartment door. Anna stood there, her eyes wild with hysteria, gripping my arm in desperate terror. Then, her voice, frantic and full of desperation, filled the room. "George, I hit someone with my car. Please, you have to help me. I was drunk at the time, if the police catch me, I'll be finished." "Wait, yes. George, you weren't drinking. You can take the fall for me, right? You'll be fine. I'll wait for you, I promise. When you get out, we'll get married." The video ended. The silence that followed was absolute. Anna sat frozen in place, her face drained of all color. Every single pair of eyes in the room turned to her. "This is too cruel." Some of the female classmates covered their eyes, unable to watch. "Is it Anna? Did she hit that guy with her car? And George, he took the fall for her? She's unbelievable. Absolutely heartless." The whispers spread through the room like wildfire. But the victim's family outside the door? Their eyes were no longer just red with rage, they were pure bloodlust. They had seen the truth. And now, they knew exactly who had stolen their loved one's life. The woman sitting beside me. Anna's entire body shook violently. Her skin turned a sickly shade of white, and for the first time in her pathetic existence, she felt real fear. A fear that sunk into her bones. She turned to me, eyes wide with desperation. "Save me, George. He's going to kill me. Please, I'm begging you, get him out of here. Didn't you say you'd protect me? Call your people, do something." Her voice, her panic, it was exactly like that night, 7 years ago. She had clung to me then, sobbing into my chest, begging me to save her. But this time? I felt nothing. Not guilt. Not sympathy. Not love. I simply patted her back gently, my voice calm and almost comforting. "It's okay. It'll all be over soon. You were right, everyone has to take responsibility for their own mistakes. And debts, well, they always need to be repaid, don't they?" Her breath hitched. Then, before she could react, Ryan grabbed her by the arms and yanked her away from me. She screamed, struggling wildly, her hands clawing at any fabric she could grasp, grabbing at the classmates who had once gossiped and envied her. But they all peeled her fingers off without hesitation. No one wanted to be dragged down with her. No one would save her. Ryan dragged her across the floor, her heels scraping against the marble, her screams filling the entire room. And then, she reached the door. That was when she finally looked up at me. And in my calm, indifferent gaze, she saw everything. Understanding hit her like a truck. Her face twisted in pure horror. "George, you set this up. You did all of this, didn't you?" I didn't answer. Ryan didn't give her another second to think, he threw her out. The agonized screams outside echoed through the hallway. "Ah, please, don't kill me. I was wrong. I swear I didn't mean to do it." I closed my eyes, calm and unmoved. In the room, my classmates sat there in a daze, listening to the horrible howling outside, their faces pale. But the show wasn't over yet. Suddenly, the screen lit up again. A new video played. This time, the footage showed Henry and Becky on a couch. Becky straddled Henry, her voice dripping with filthy words as she whispered into his ear. The room erupted into chaos. Just when they thought the nightmare had ended, the video pulled 3 more people into the abyss. Nate, who had already been humiliated, beaten, and fired from his job, lost it completely. His entire body trembled as his gaze burned into Becky. "You filthy whore. Today, I'm going to kill you." Before anyone could stop him, Nate grabbed Becky by the hair, yanking her down. Becky screamed. But no one moved. No one tried to stop it. After a few minutes, silence fell over the room once again. I finally rubbed my temples and slowly opened my eyes. The moment I did, I was met with dozens of pairs of terrified eyes. Every single person in that room looked at me as if I were a monster. The police arrived. They dragged away Nate, who was still foaming at the mouth with rage, and the victim's grieving family, who had collapsed from exhaustion. Becky? She suffered severe brain trauma. Her intelligence deteriorated, and she spent her days drooling and babbling nonsense, her once sharp tongue reduced to incoherent ramblings. Anna? Her spine was shattered, leaving her permanently paralyzed. But the worst part? She was still fully conscious. She was wheeled into court, publicly condemned by the entire world. Even her own parents refused to acknowledge her. Her life had become a living hell. After this series of events passed, my emotions were finally released and my migraine problem no longer recurred. I know that I actually no longer like Anna, all I have is the obsession of those 6 years. Inside the coffee shop, Selena rested her chin on her hands, her eyes shimmering like stars as she gazed at me. "George, so you spent 6 years in prison for someone else? That's so tragic, but I really admire you. No wonder Marcus and my dad say you're a man of loyalty and honor." I set down my coffee, then reached over to ruffle her hair. "Selena, would you like to travel with me?" Her eyes widened in excitement. "Really?" "Yes. Won't it interfere with your filming?" Selena pouted, then smiled brightly. "Compared to spending time with you? Acting is nothing. Come on, let's go, I have so many places I want to see with you." For the first time in years, I smiled, genuinely.